why is money a bad thing to talk about?
Exactly.
It's like the scarcity mentality is when somebody doesn't want to talk about money.
That's what it is, dude. Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Overstock Dixie. You can go like and follow their Instagram. There's new items that pop up on there every day, multiple times a day. Anything from furniture to tools, electronics, pretty much anything you're looking for. Hey guys, welcome back to the Derick Lake podcast. We are on episode 60 today, keeping our streak alive. I'm actually going to be out of town next week, and Mallory's going to be out of town, so we're recording two of them tonight. We're trying to keep that every week, bringing an episode to you going. So we've been able to do it for over a year. It's kind of cool, the commitment that Mallory and I made, and we're rolling with it. So we've got a guest today that you're local to Southern Utah.
I moved here a couple years ago.
Okay, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So this is Branden
DuCharme.
I was going to say that, and then I was like, I don't want to mess this up.
No, it's
Branden DuCharme. How's it going, man?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, dude, I love, so Branden, I posted a week ago or so that we needed a guest to come on. And I love when people reach out and they're like, I'm game, hit me up. And you were one of them. So I screenshotted it to Mallory and I'm like, hit him up. Let's get him on.
Oh, that's so, yeah. I saw the opportunity, and I've watched before, and I just thought, like, that is way outside my comfort zone to go on a podcast. I should probably go do it.
Dude, it really is fun. Like, I hope when we're done with this,
Yeah.
because Mallory runs a couple other ones, so we've even suggested like guests on here, because like we have a little bit of traction, and she has a few that are just starting. So it's like, dude,
Yeah.
pull from our guest list, you
Yeah.
know, if you need to fill someone. So I like it. I told you about my first time being on Jefferson Rogers' podcast. I was like super nervous. I was tripping over myself. I didn't even feel like I said a full sentence the entire time.
Yeah.
But I had a blast, and that's kind of where the Derick Lake podcast came from. So, but yeah, give me a little background. Just tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you got into the, occupation you're in now, maybe met your wife, just kind of a little background.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Midwest, out in Wisconsin. An older brother, older sister, and a little brother. Grew up on the family farm that my grandpa had bought back in the late 50s.
Okay.
And decided, like, my senior year of high school, I'd need to get the heck out of Wisconsin. And had been out to Utah. Previously, we had some family up in the Salt Lake area. And I just, there's something I liked about it. The culture was just different. So started going to school at UVU. I was so eager to get out of Wisconsin. I started summer semester. Who graduates high school and says, like, hey, put me back in?
Not me. I didn't do that.
So, found my way out to Utah. Met my wife out here. Ended up in a career in sales, running some retail stores in the wireless industry, and then ended up deciding that money was just not always the most important thing, and is just too stressful on my family. And so I thought what would be a really great idea is to enlist in the Army.
So this was when you were like 19?
So this is like when I was like 22.
Okay.
And I was married.
That's a realization to have really young.
And decide, so I came home and was like, honey, I'm going to join the Army. And she's like, you're nuts. I'm like, well, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So made a lot of lifestyle changes. And I got out of the Army in 2019, and we could kind of move anywhere we wanted. And my wife's from northern Utah, and just felt like, there's a lot of people up there now, and the growth has been so crazy, and the traffic and snows in the winter, and like, let's go to St. George instead.
Yeah.
Kind of had everything we needed, like less people, doesn't snow. There's still a Costco. So, it's got everything you need.
Got everything we need.
All the essentials. So yeah, we showed up here. We just had a good feeling about it. We showed up here, and after a couple months, we were like, this is just heaven. Absolutely loved it. Bought a house and decided this this is where we wanted to raise a family. So
it was like 1920, like 2019, 2020.
yeah.
Okay.
So June of 19, like luckily right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right. You know,
Right. So you bought a cheaper house than they are now.
yeah, substantially. Super fortunate in that regard.
Good.
But yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in southern Utah.
I mean, that's a big change from Wisconsin, right? Because you're snow and everything up there, or no?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Freezing cold.
Yeah. What kind of farm
yeah.
was it, like dairy farm?
So it's a little corn farm, and
Okay.
I probably overplayed that card a bit. So when my dad was a kid, my grandpa made him farm and sell the sweet corn. And he did that as a way to teach him like a work ethic.
Sure.
He taught him how to run a business and a P&L statement. And he actually had this thing where the first year he actually showed my dad, like he took him down to the bank and showed him savings accounts. And then the second year he showed him money market accounts. And then actually on the third year, he showed him how to start investing in the stock market with their money. And so my dad actually, when he was in high school, had made enough money in the stock market at that point to buy a 1968 Camaro.
Dang.
And still had all of his original money that he had earned, growing and selling sweet corn. And so that was my dad's kind of epiphany to the value of money and investing.
So what was your grandpa's background with all that?
Oh man.
I mean, just
so, he grew up in the Depression, like
Sure.
in the upper peninsula of Michigan and northern Wisconsin. And I mean, like seriously, nothing. His parents actually gave him into the foster care system because they couldn't afford to feed him even, right? And he joined the Navy like the end of World War II and ended up just teaching himself how to invest.
That's
and
impressive.
Ended up he landed in real estate, a lot of real estate. So he was a land developer and a home builder, and then ended up retiring as a director of housing and urban development in Wisconsin, actually.
Wow.
So
Yeah, the reason I ask is I feel like my grandparents they did pretty good with money. They're I would consider them wealthy now. But I feel like it like almost skipped a generation, and you're going to have a different story than I did.
yeah,
But like, I feel like a lot of people that are our parents' age I don't know if they just weren't exposed to it or weren't taught it. And so when you said that, I'm like, dude, that's cool that it's been able to cycle through your family, at least this far, through the generations. Cause at least a lot of people I know were never taught any of that.
Yeah,
and I was definitely not taught any of that.
That's a rags to riches to rags kind of story, And I could be totally misled on this, so somebody could fact check me if they want. But I've heard that in Europe and France specifically, they actually have a term called like nouveau riche, just like you're new rich. And so you could be like worth like millions and millions and millions of dollars, and you won't get invited to like the parties of the people that would have less money. And they're like, dude, it's because you're new rich.
Yeah, you're new
You
money.
know, like, yeah, you're, and so it's kind of like 3 generations of being millionaires is what kind of gets you into the club. And what they're looking for is, okay, you can get rich. Anyone can get rich, but can you teach your kids
That's
the right
prestigious
principles?
part.
Yeah, to retain it, and
I like that.
but yeah, anyway, so by the time I grew up on the farm, it was like,
So was that kind of
they
passed
rented
down to you?
No, my dad, my dad actually, my parents built the only home they've ever built and lived in. They built on the farm, so I grew up next door to my grandparents.
Yeah.
But they just leased the fields out, so we had to do all like like wood clearing and stacking wood, and all that kind of stuff.
Work ethic stuff.
Yeah, a lot of the work ethic stuff when I was a kid, but we didn't actually farm the corn. My dad is.
So is he still up there?
Yeah, so they still live in that house. My grandpa died a couple years ago. My grandma just died in March. And actually my sister is moving into their house, buying their house.
Wow.
So staying in the family.
So you're the only one down here.
I'm the only one. I always joke. I say I'm the only one that escaped, which was like a really funny joke to me.
I think it's funny
until I ended up working for the family business, and I was like the only one that works for the family business, and I'm across the country.
Yeah, now you're roped back in.
Yeah, but it's awesome. It's awesome. So
that's cool, dude. Let's talk about the business a little bit since we're right there. And so you got back in. You're starting to grow here. But was there schooling involved? Was it just growing up with it with your dad? Has your dad always done it? Tell us what it is and then go into that.
Oh yeah. So we're just fiduciary investment advisors. So we do holistic financial planning and wealth management. And then, but instead of just selling somebody a product and telling them that, you're good, head on down the road, we kind of stay on the ship and write the course, do those bearing checks. I kind of say like the financial planning is the value add on the front side, and the investment advising is that constant kind of maintenance. So we actually invest people's money for them.
Sure.
Right. So I make those investment decisions on their behalf.
Now, do you think that's mainly for people that don't know what they're doing, or people that don't have time to do it, or like why would somebody come to you guys and have you do it?
Both.
Both.
So there's probably a lot of things you know how to do in life that's just not worth your time doing if you're not
had this conversation this morning.
Right. Yeah. So, and we have a full range of spectrum of clients, right? There's the people that have no experience and they need some help or guidance getting started, and they need someone they can trust. There's people that have a ton of money, sophisticated investors, but they need somebody to be a good steward of a good portion of it, or something along those lines. Or maybe someone's really like money savvy with real estate, but they understand they need a liquidity partner to manage some of their more liquid assets.
You guys take that
and so
over.
we kind of help them there. So it just kind of depends. Everyone has a different need, but
it's DuCharme Financial Group.
Yeah. So my dad runs it, DuCharme Financial Group. I kind of shorten it a little bit in St. George. I usually just say DuCharme Financial.
Okay.
Not to shortchange him at all, but
yeah. And then you guys are getting ready to open like an office.
Yeah. So I actually opened our office almost a year ago.
Okay.
Here. Last last September, October is when I officially opened. And we're getting around to a little ribbon cutting we're doing soon, but just kind of a soft. So did a little bit of a soft opening.
Is it like two? Okay, so it's the same office though.
It's the same office. Yeah, I'm just kind of celebrating it. I suppose finally.
I just didn't know if you were going to two or moving, but you guys are just celebrating it now.
Yeah, just celebrating it now.
That's awesome.
Life's been busy. I mean, last fall when I opened it, I was finishing school still. My wife was pregnant, and then we had our first kid. We had our first kid in January, and everything that's gone on this year and having a new kid and stuff. So this is kind of just when we're getting around to it.
How's that going?
Oh, being a dad is so wild.
Do you like it?
Oh, it is. At first it was really discouraging.
Dude, I'm very vocal about my being a dad experience on here. So.
It was like I was like, man, I didn't realize I could love something so much that just could not care less if I existed. At first he's like it. He's like, dude, you don't make milk. Where's mom? What are you doing here? So now that he's eating some salads and stuff and he's interacting more, it's definitely like really fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
And do you want kids?
Yeah. So when we first got married, we didn't think we were going to want kids. We just didn't know. We were both young, and I worked so much when I was in retail, running those stores. We thought it would have been impossible to have kids.
Just a time thing.
Yeah, just a time thing. And then when I was in the Army, it was
right.
We needed to work our marriage out, at first. And then I got stationed up at Fort Lewis up in Washington, and her uncle was stationed up there. And her uncle is just like salt of the earth, like one of the greatest guys. His family is amazing. And so they, kind of took us in under their wing a little bit, and we spent a lot of time over there with their family. And they had three kids at the time, and one of them was Tommy turned like 2 when we moved up there. And while we were there, I just had kind of clicked with Tommy, and I was like, man, this would be so much fun. This would be awesome.
Yeah. And
my wife kind of started feeling the same way. So the more we talked about it, we're like, yeah, I think we should have kids, but you're always like gone back. And so we decided to wait. So anyways, after we got here, then,
we settled.
Yeah. After we bought the house, we were like, hey, let's, it's the timing's right. So we've actually been married. We're going on 8 years.
Oh, good for you.
And, waited till we were ready for it and wanted it. And, it's been an incredible experience. And,
how old are you?
28.
28. Okay.
Yeah.
So, 'cause I'm 33, but we
Okay.
kind of did the same thing. So we have
Yeah.
a 2-year-old. And we'll
Okay.
be married 10
Yeah.
years this year.
Yeah.
And so, but dude, I bring that up because I'm always curious of what people think and like to be vulnerable and honest about it. Cause I'm very honest. Like I
Yeah.
did not want kids. And my wife kind of was like, I think it's time. And I'm like, I thought we weren't doing this, type of thing. And then I was like, okay, I mean, if you feel that strongly about it, I'll do it. And so we ended up having a kid. And even in the beginning, I was like, this is so hard. And so my wife's a nurse practitioner and works overtime and on call. And I run 4 businesses every day, but I'm at one of them for like working with it at least 10 hours a day,
Wow.
And so I'm like, when are we you're saying your time commitment, you're like, when am I ever going to do this?
Yeah.
And luckily now, so she works at the hospital and they provide a daycare for their employees.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the top rated daycares in the area.
It's awesome.
I think in the state. And so he goes there. So that kind of helps us out quite a bit. But dude, for that first while, I was like, this is terrible. I'm like, he cries all the time. If he's not eating or sleeping, he's crying.
I have never had a higher level of respect and appreciation for my wife than now.
Dude, same. Yeah. I think how impressed I've always been very impressed with my wife. She was always she wouldn't think that she's a high achiever. Cause like when she went into nursing, she was like, maybe I'll just be a nurse.
Yeah.
And then she was like, well, everyone has their BSN, so I should go get my BSN. And then she was like, well, for 2 more years, I could have my master's. And then she went and got her master's. And I'm like, yeah, but she never set to get her master's. But I told her, I'm like, that's because that's just how your chain of events work. Like once you get there, you never thought you could have been a nurse practitioner. But once you were one step, that other step didn't seem so far away.
Yeah.
And so you took it. And then the next step didn't seem so far away.
Yeah.
But at the bottom of that mountain, it seems like it's so long.
So far.
Right?
Yeah.
And I didn't go to school, so maybe most people that went to college can relate to that. But
oh man, I started this journey in like 2012 and I'm still like finishing school. I still have like a couple classes to finish this fall.
Well, it doesn't have dates on it. That's what's nice. It doesn't say you started here and graduated this date.
Well, I wouldn't care. I hope mine says Dixie on it is what I'm hoping. School's a trip.
Yeah.
I find it so interesting that they call it like a Bachelor of Science is a BS degree.
Yeah, I know, right? The BS degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, but dude, so I was going to say, so with my kid, you're saying that yours is like, well, you're not mom. You don't make milk, right?
Yeah.
My kid, the last William.
Yeah.
Shouldn't say my kid. He is my kid, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put a name to him. So William, like the last probably 2 months, everything's daddy. He's
really?
like I'll leave
so
for work,
fun.
Dude. He'll run up to me and like grab his shoes out of the cabinet and put them on the ground. And he's like, shoes, and he like wants to roll with me. And I'm like, dude, a couple more years, you will be rolling with me. But so it's a cool feeling, dude, because it gets to that point to where there's times where I'm even like Amanda, just come get him. He's just he's all over me all the time.
That's the stuff that I'm so excited for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had like this little janky bass boat and I decided to sell it.
Yeah.
Cause I was like, yeah, I'm a kid. And I haven't been able to go fishing like one time this year. I've been so busy, and, so I was like, well, I'll invest it and just buy a new bass boat and whatever, 5 years.
When that time comes. Yeah.
And I'm just like so eagerly awaiting. I'm like, as soon as that kid can pick up a fishing pole, we're going to the lake,
Dude, I'll show you some pictures when we're done. Cause we did that. So I've got a little pontoon boat.
Oh yeah.
And we went.
So fun.
So my wife's like extremely outdoors.
Okay.
So she's going to Glacier National Park next weekend. They rock climb, mountain bike. All of it, right? All that outdoor activity stuff. And she'll take Will with her a lot of the times and do things. So we have pictures of him like climbing up the rocks and stuff. And he's like 18 months old. And then, so we went fishing the other day and he's like digging it. Like, I think he's starting to realize what's going on. He's, he'll grab a fishing pole and he's reeling it. And dude, it is super cool. Like I was sitting there in the captain's chair, obviously. Right?
Yeah. Well, where else would you be?
Yeah. And I look over and he's sitting on his mom's lap and he's like reeling the reel in. And I just thought, dude, like this is like, if I ever wanted a kid in my mind, to be dead honest, it was like just a free employee. I'm like, dude, when he gets old enough, I can put him to work,
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there watching him and it like really made a mind shift for me. Cause I was like, dude, this is what it's about. Like, this is fun. This is cool. And he like, when we're going out and coming back into the dock, he'll sit on my lap and steer the boat.
Oh, yeah.
And he's all about it.
Yeah, those are the moments that I'm so excited for. Like, that's really what.
Yeah, so those nights that you're going to be like, this freaking sucks. Like, just remember, dude, that's not very far away.
Yeah, and everyone says that. They're like, oh, how's the sleep? And I'm like, well, my back hurts a little bit, but what are you talking about? They're like, you have a little kid. I'm like,
does he sleep pretty good?
Dude, no, he doesn't, but I do.
Oh, okay.
My wife is awesome. Yeah, she's like, you go to work, like, you know, you have stuff in the day. I got this, like,
is she able to be a stay-at-home mom?
Yeah. Yeah, great. Dude. It's like, I can't imagine doing it a different way.
Yeah.
And she's such an incredible mom. She really is.
See, we kind of had that while Amanda was off work, but when she started going back to work, it was like, I would sleep out on the couch with him. She would sleep out on the couch. I would sleep out on the couch in case he woke up and didn't wake her up, and I'd go get him. And we kind of like rotated a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it was hard.
Dude, lately we've been doing, the most we've been doing lately is, because he gets really fussy. He's a super, super big mama's boy, like loves his mom. Mm-hmm. Ledger can't get enough of her.
Ledger, I like that.
Yeah, his name's Ledger, which is another funny story, but anyways, so I've been waking up and going to the gym, like, get to the gym at 5, get home, try to bust out a, workout real quick or whatever I can do, just get moving a little bit, stretch out for the day, and try to get home like 5:40 in the morning so my wife can catch a class at like Be Hot Yoga, and so he'll still be sleeping, and so I'll hold him while he's sleeping still for like an hour and a half, but it's such an incredible experience to just like so I got home this morning and did that, and my wife's like, take your gym shirt off, you nasty dude. So I'm like sitting there like shirtless, like in our little recliner, like holding him, and he just like nuzzles in, and you're like, this is the most precious thing.
It really is, dude. I wish I would have soaked that in more, because I was just like, I was so tired and just wanted to get on to the next thing, and I'm starting to do that now. Yeah. But it's funny that you say that, because the other night we were going to put him to bed. And he does good now. I mean, he'll sleep 12 hours now.
Yeah.
But I went to go put him to bed.
I think we're happy if Ledger sleeps like 12 minutes.
Dude, I went through that. It was about every hour and a half we were up with him. But the other night I went to go take him into his room and put him in his crib. And I don't know why, I just like sat down on the recliner. This, I guess, has been a couple weeks now. And I was just holding him, and he was just sitting there drinking his bottle, and I had that experience for like the first time. Yeah. And like, I just wanted to sit there all night holding him, you know? And I probably sat there for an hour and a half while he slept, and I just held him, and then I put him in his crib and went to bed. But that was like the first time I experienced what you're experiencing now, because I never stopped to like take it in.
Oh yeah.
And so that's important, dude. I mean, you learned that a lot faster than I did.
Well, hopefully I can appreciate it the same way you do, though, know?
Well, it sounds like you already do.
Yeah. I think those are the benefits sometimes of like waiting and having the kid when you're like more emotionally ready for it.
Sure.
Which, not to knock anyone that didn't. I think everyone ultimately like does it however they were supposed to. It all works out.
Hopefully. Yeah.
But, yeah. Yeah. Hopefully. But
no, I get what you're saying.
I think things are like, things turn out the way they're supposed to. There's a learning experience in everything. You just have to look for it.
Yeah, I mean, this was like the plan for us. We were going to get Amanda through school. So when we got engaged, she just got accepted into the nursing program. Yeah. So we knew that she had 5 or 6 years of school ahead of her. Yeah. And so I was like in 5. So people would be like, oh, now you're married when you're having kids, right? And I'm like, we got 5 years. Like, I don't even want to talk about it for 5 years. Yeah. And that was kind of our game. And she put her head down. I put my head down. I tried to grow businesses while she went and got her degree. Yeah. And then after we started getting a little settled, we built a house. He was 2 months old when we moved into our new house. Okay. And I would sit there at night like he's a newborn, right? Mm-hmm. Or I guess 2 months. Yeah. And we're sitting there, and we built a beautiful house, like we did, and we've got a great view. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there like watching my wife hold the baby, looking out the windows, and I'm like, yeah, dude, this is why we waited. Yeah. Like, I feel like we did this smart. This is why we waited.
Yeah. And I never want to knock someone that has kids early on.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know,
And it's nothing negative towards them. It's just how we did it.
But yeah, I feel like a lot better for myself personally. I think like looking in hindsight, I couldn't have been the dad that I needed to be, you know, or the provider, the father figure,
Oh, same.
and even the husband that my wife needs, you know.
Good point.
So I needed to do a lot of maturing.
Just some emotional maturity.
Yeah, emotional maturity in my own respect.
Dude, I don't think I could have done it if I tried to do that. I mean, we were married. I was 22, I think, when I got married.
Yeah.
If I was 23 with a kid, I don't think I could have done it.
My life would look so wildly different.
Yeah. I mean, emotionally, I don't know if I'd have been able to do it.
Yeah.
Because there were still nights when I was 30 that I was like, or 31, I was like, dude, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's like me, like every morning when I wake up, you know, like my wife slept like 2 hours the night before, you know, and I like roll over.
And you're like, oh, this is exhausting.
Yeah. I'm like, how do you do it? How do you do it? But anyways.
That's awesome. So let's get into some things that you guys can provide with your job, if you're okay with that.
Oh,
Just
sure.
some
Yeah.
like tips, not even what you can provide, but some things that people would be like, man, I've never heard of that, or I didn't know it was so easy, or, you know, kind of just grab some attention that route.
Oh man, it's yeah, I don't know. This is a problem I have a lot. I feel like I like have this knowledge base that I just completely take for granted. Like I was saying earlier, you know, like I just grew up in it. And so,
I mean, what's the last video you shot?
I don't know. You know what is an interesting one? I keep hearing lately, like where people are saying like, hey, don't invest in your 401k. Don't invest in an IRA, you know, like these like crazy things. And I'm like, why, what's wrong with that? That's just a vehicle, you know, like what do you understand what that really is or how that works? You know, there's so many misconceptions about it, but you know, like when people have a match on their 401k and they're not taking advantage of it, they're not doing that contribution. I'm like, that is like, whoever is telling you not to do that is there to sell you something, and they're looking out for themselves and not you.
Yeah.
Like
100. What that means.
100%.
I know what that means, but like, so when you work for a job and they provide it, so
yeah, and they offer like a 401k match. So they'll say like, hey, Derick, you know, you can contribute 3% of your paycheck to the 401k, right? Which is like not some bucket of their money they keep, right? It's not, you know, some phantom stock or something. Yeah. It's like it gets invested, and you can choose how it's invested somewhat, right? But they'll say, hey, well, you put in 3%, we'll give you a 3% bonus. We'll put it right in there for you. So now you got 6% of your income. It's going, you know, in a retirement account for you, right? And that's 100% rate of return on day one.
That's a good point.
Like guaranteed, right? Like you guaranteed get the money from the employer, you know, like, and I think I do a really nice job for people. Like we do a great job investing people's money, but I cannot do 100% rate of return guaranteed on day one. Yeah. I can't do it, you know? So I'm like, what? And you know what? Like Bitcoin's not going to do that for you, or any other real estate, like nothing. Like you put in $1, they put in $1, the market could lose 50%, right? Like, oh wait, the big crash, right? You'd be at a break even. You know what I mean? Like at its worst point, you'd be at a break even.
Yeah, so this is a question I got for you. So, because this is something I don't know.
Yeah.
So I've done that in the past when I was W-2 employee, right?
Yeah.
And so I did it with the post office.
Okay.
And they would let you do, there was like 3 levels of risk, I think is how they had it laid out.
Yeah.
So you could be like super aggressive, but it's more risky, middle, and then not risky, but you don't have a big return.
Yeah.
So, and all that's riding in the stock market, right? At least this one was.
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah. Stocks, it's going to be a mixture of stocks and bonds typically.
Okay. So, and I know you could go on there like you're saying, and I could pick like what level of risk I wanted to put in each one. I mean, you could get really involved. I never did. I just let it ride.
Yeah. So in a 401k plan, because it's like a employer provided plan, they have to define like what the options available for people to invest in it are. So that's why there's usually some models that say, hey, you know, like what's your risk tolerance, you know, and I kind of joke, I say like, you know, mild, medium, or spicy, you know, some hot sauce.
Yeah.
But some plans will do like what's called like an SDBA option or a PCRA. So a self-directed brokerage account. So like, the Utah retirement system has it, or SkyWest is. We got some clients that work for SkyWest that have this option, and actually Intermountain has it too. Another big employer. So once they get a little bit of money in their 401k, they can actually open up this portal and either choose like their own investments across the broad market, whatever, if they think they're smart enough to pick stocks or
if you're into that stuff,
if you're into that, if you're really into it and you feel like you're smarter than the pros or whatever, or you got some other philosophy or methodology or whatever that you prescribe to, go for it. You could utilize that, but you can also utilize that even just to come get some professional help, actually, which is really cool because you can take advantage of the employer match, right? They're giving you the free money, but then you can go get some professional help, so you're not limited to just like mild, medium, or spicy. You can. I kind of tell people like 401ks are like a tub of vanilla ice cream, right? So if somebody came to me and said like, "Hey, you want some free vanilla ice cream?" I'm like,
"Oh, I know you're down."
You ever ask what kind? Right? You're like, hell yeah, dish me up. What, who's gonna say no? I hate
have sprinkles.
Yeah, you know what I mean. No, I only wanted chocolate or whatever. So like that's like the 401k, right? It's kind of generic, and you kind of get, but it's free, in a way.
Right.
I'm like the Ben and Jerry's. Like you shift down a door in the freezer section, you open up Ben and Jerry's. We got like lots of options, cool stuff going on. It costs a little bit more sometimes because you got to pay for some. You got to pay me.
Right.
But,
you got to pay for the knowledge.
Yeah. And the expertise and the management and the infrastructure and all this other stuff that goes into it. But, what do you like eating more, right? Like the tub of vanilla or the Ben and Jerry's.
Right.
Yeah. So
when all that stuff's in the market and the market goes, you're hoping the market goes up. So what if the market, like right now, where the market tanks?
Oh man, that is the coolest thing you could have said. Yeah. So I'm actually one of only 3 members in Utah that's a member of the National Association of Active Investment Managers. So our investing philosophy is entirely different than just most people, I'll say. So the kind of phrase that we'll use is we'll say like hope is not a strategy. So instead of like a lot of people call investing buy and hold, we call it buy and hope because on the strategy
that's what it is.
The strategy is hope. You hope it just goes up. So we actually do a lot more active and tactical management. So, for example, like earlier this year, we just rebalanced portfolios and more defensively positioned. A lot of our monies with our clients have been in cash most of the year. They just haven't had we manage the downside protection in a unique way. So our clients don't have to call up and say, "Hey, is anything going on or anything changing?" Like they trust us that we got it. They're seeing their trade confirmations on a weekly basis. They're getting the emails. They see stuff's happening. And we're delivering a different experience. So it's a really unique way to manage, investments, but yeah, we're not,
You're not just letting it ride.
Yeah, we don't just let it ride. We think that's like a horrible idea. So it was, oh man, I wish I should have come prepared with like some better notes or something.
No,
so fact check me on this. And in fact, I think this one came off of CNBC. It was like people that do buy and hold, they'll talk about, if you miss the best 10 days in the market, like all your returns are gone over the last like 100 years or whatever. Right. And, but if you miss if you miss the worst 10 days, right? So the other side, right?
Right.
Like, if you miss the 10 best days, you cut the return a ton. But what if you miss the worst 10 days, right?
Yeah.
You have it's like over 1,000,000% return.
Really?
It's like insane. It's such a more significant impact to be out of the market the 10 worst days. So then you blend them together. So what's the fair and balanced opinion? Well, okay, well, what if you're out the worst 10 and the best 10? What happens? You're still like 27,000% or something like that. It's like, it's ridiculous. So what we try to do is we try to if you can limit the downside, right? So if the market's losing money, you lose half as bad as the market, and then you just capture 80% of the upside. So you're not going to catch a bottom, not going to catch a top, just right in the middle.
Yeah.
Come out 35% better experience.
So that's like the vanilla with sprinkles, but not quite spicy.
No, that's just like overall methodology. The way, yeah, it's just so unique. I explain it to people. There's one strategy in particular that we use that it has a team of money managers on it. And they look at like 17 indicators on a daily basis, right? So this strategy, we can put just a slice of a client's portfolio in it, right? So not all your eggs in one basket, it's diversified.
Yeah.
But this one strategy, every single day, they look at 17 indicators in the market and determine if the money needs a trade. So on a normal year, it trades like 12 to 20 times maybe. And if the indicators say, hey, risk on, it will actually double leverage the NASDAQ 100. So if the NASDAQ 100 goes up like 4%, it would make like 8%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It works the other way too, right?
Sure.
So like if the NASDAQ, if you're in the wrong position, the NASDAQ, loses 4, you lose 8, right? That's the nature of leverage. But if those 17 indicators say, hey, it's kind of some uncertainty there, it actually just moves the cash, right? Right. It's pretty cool. So that strategy, look, what I say kind of makes that strategy a little bit more in the spicy category, right? Is if those indicators line up and say like, yeah, they're pretty confident the market's going to roll over, it'll actually trade into a 2 times inverse position. So if the NASDAQ loses, 2%, it would actually make 4%. Again, right? You get opposite direction. So if the NASDAQ goes up 2%, right, you would lose 4%.
Yeah.
Right. So
goes both ways.
It goes both ways. Yeah. It's definitely a knife that cuts both ways. Right. But it's a way cool strategy. And, that's not what most people have in their portfolio.
Right.
Most people have in their portfolio, like whatever, again, medium, mild, or spicy, or, some index funds or whatever. And they're just buy and hold. So when the market's crashing, it's crashing, right?
Yeah.
It's tanking, right? They're opening up their statements and it's loss and loss and loss. And people feel devastated. And then the psychology of it kicks in and they end up saying like, okay, I got to get out. I can't bear this anymore. They sell. And then they wait and wait and wait. And so the guy that sold in 2008, man, he just got back into the market last fall, and now the market's down again.
Yeah, he's lost twice.
Yeah, and now he's saying like, this sucks. This is a scam.
I'll never
it's like,
do this again.
Yeah, it's like, man, you really could have probably benefited from just having somebody to coach you along the way. Nothing else from a psychology standpoint, but.
I mean, but that's kind of everything right now. Like everything's kind of like you had mentioned, like your Bitcoin and whatnot, right? I mean,
oh sure, yeah.
Like all of cryptocurrencies in the tank. Like I've got so I got onto Robinhood, and that was probably the worst thing for me.
Oh man,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's kind of almost like I feel bad about this almost, but the more the market takes a beating, I'm kind of like excited about it.
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at.
And yeah, and it's like, well, the lower it goes, like the more wealthy my clients are going to end up being in the long term.
So we had like a little guys' night at my house the other night. There was like 4 or 5 guys over, and me and so we're gonna get Blake Nyson on here sometime. He's gonna love that I'm shouting him out again. But so him and I got like way into crypto the last like 2 years.
Yeah,
and so like him and I would do all the research on these new coins popping up or these new staking platforms or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
And then we would go like branch out to all of our buddies of these like 10 guys. We'd be like, hey, buy this, trade that, sell this. And we would kind of coach them along with it. And then now like everything's in the tank. Right. And so for example, there's one coin that the day it launched, it was like 2.8 or it was 2 cents. 0.8.
Yeah.
However you would say that.
2.8 cents.
Yeah. And so it's 2.8 and I had bought it like 2 hours later than Blake. So Blake got in at like 2.8. I bought it at 3 and then it went all the way into like the 40 cents. Right.
Yeah.
And that was like a month. It went all the way up to 40 cents. Well, dude, when it's at like 12, everyone's like, you guys suck. Why didn't you tell me to get into this? Like, oh, you guys are making all this money now. You didn't say nothing. Yeah. And so then everyone's buying in at like 15 cents, 20 cents, 25 cents. And then it gets up to 41, 42. Well, now it's back down to 4 cents right now.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, why didn't you tell me to get in and then, so we're sitting at this.
And a lot of your friends probably hopped in at 12 cents.
So that's what I mean. So they were in at like 12, 15, 20. And so, so they're like trying to break. And it's one that like pays you daily to hold it.
Okay.
And so one of them is like $200 short from breaking even. He put in $5,000.
Oh man.
And so we're all talking about it. And it's like, yeah, dude, everything's down right now. There's really not a play. It's kind of a hold game. If you sell, you're probably going to sell at a loss. And we're kind of going back and forth. And I just started laughing. And Blake's like, what are you laughing at? And I'm like, do you remember like 3 months ago when every one of these guys were cussing us out because we didn't tell them when it was at 3 cents. Now
Yeah.
it's at 4, and they're all trying to figure out how to get out of this thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, so that's like the mind thing on this is me and you were looking at like, we should probably buy some more.
Yeah. So I'm not a buy the dipper. You know, we have our tactical models. We believe in the signals. And so we kind of say like, forecasting's for show, but tactical signals are for dough.
There
It's
you
kinda
go.
like-
I like that. You should have that framed.
Yeah. That's actually our chief investment officer that's his
Coined that.
Yeah, his phrase. Yeah, his name's Barry. He's a great guy, super smart. Buy the dip is interesting,
Yeah,
just because when do you buy it?
right. I mean, I did that on one of them, dude.
In a secular bull market, buy the dip, sure, maybe, but how low is this market going to go?
Exactly.
But
my point was like, we were at 3 cents. Now we're at 4 and everyone's complaining. And I'm like, guys, we're back at 4 that you wanted.
They wanted in at 4. Yeah. That's like my grandpa, my grandpa was like a value investor, so he was like, if he bought a stock at $12, and it goes to like 8, he's like, he like really loves the stock now. He's like, going to buy some more, but
dude, but I had one I lost a bunch of money on that was like that. Like it kept dropping and dropping and it was at like $600 a coin. It dropped to like 3 and I'm like liquidating other coins to get it buy more of it. And then it gets down more. It's at $3 right now.
Oh man.
So I kind of lost my shorts on that one.
That falling knife,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's altcoins are really interesting to me. It's like they're definitely like the penny stocks of crypto.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly what they are.
Fortunes can be made and lost in a day. Yeah. We'll kind of joke sometimes. I'll say like, yeah, I'm the guy at the firm that's like crypto curious.
Yeah. Do you have any? Have you gotten into it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit here and there.
I mean, it was more like just fun for me, I think. Like I've got some miners, so I'm mining Ethereum.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen your rigs at the
did you check? Yeah, did you see? Oh yeah, if you guys went through the back, you'd have seen them.
Yeah.
And then, so I've even grown past that. So I've got
really?
more. I have 6 or 7 there. And then I have a bunch of CPU miners going too. I think I have like 20 of those. And then I have one full rig at my house going because the back of my store is too hot from everything else going.
Yeah.
And so I moved one of them that was really efficient to my house in my basement. So it's running at my house. And right now it's not even a great time to do it. But I'm kind of just stockpiling all the Ethereum right now.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know like everything about
Sure.
crypto. I'm not a crypto expert. In fact, if we were going to trade crypto, we're incubating a tactically managed crypto strategy that'll trade in and out of the market based on indicators and technical analysis, right? So it doesn't have as much to do with the underlying asset of Bitcoin's utility. It's just kind of like, are people going to keep buying it?
Yeah. It just looks at tendencies and
Yeah.
Dude, I even have some. This is interesting too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah,
This is interesting too. I'm on, it's called Dex Tools is one of the websites where you can watch each trade.
Yeah.
And it tells you what wallet it's coming from.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you can even watch it to where like someone will buy like $50,000 worth of a coin.
Mm-hmm.
And so it literally makes like that coin jump up like 4 cents.
Yeah.
And then like 2 or 3 trades go in and buy because people see it start to jump. And then that person sells it.
They literally pump and dump it.
And they'll do that 50 times a day.
Because it can. It's completely unregulated.
Exact. So that's what I was going to get at.
And that's what's interesting is it has to be in order to keep the appeal of crypto.
Yeah. Because it is unregulated.
It has to have that like decentralized aspect to it. Otherwise it's just central bank digital currency, which is not a far fetch from the zeros and ones we already have on our phones.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And
Venmo and your bank account.
Yeah. Your Chase Bank or Mount America or whatever,
Well, that's what makes me laugh about the whole thing, dude. Is people will be like, I just don't get it. And I'm like, do you use Venmo? I'm like, it's the same. It's even more private than that.
Yeah. Have you ever talked to Aaron Olson?
Dude, I've heard his name a dozen times. I've not met him.
So McCrae introduced me to him, and it was like a really cool conversation to have. Really thought-provoking stuff.
I should have him on then.
Yeah, he'd be an interesting, very passionate guy, and probably like the most in on Bitcoin I've ever met. Like I've heard of people that are more in on Bitcoin, but like maybe that like Bitcoin family.
Yeah.
He's like, he really loves Bitcoin. yeah, he understands it. And he taught us came and talked to a couple of us and taught us some stuff, which was super interesting. Where was I going with that? What did he totally told me.
Talking about Venmo being.
Oh, he was telling us that Twitter uses blockchain and Bitcoin to do their money transfer stuff. Like they have like the technology to do that. So like, like Facebook Pay or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the Twitter. I don't use Twitter. I have no idea.
Yeah. I had it just to do some crypto stuff because crypto's super heavy on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. So he said, but like, yeah, when you transfer money on there, I guess it uses Bitcoin, which was like, he had this kind of theory about like, that's why maybe Elon Musk was interested in buying it. I don't know.
That's interesting. I mean, he is one of those crypto guys for sure.
Yeah, he certainly, maybe he might be the biggest pump and dumper of all. We don't have no idea,
When I first got in, that was the Doge thing, is I was like,
oh yeah,
dude, anytime Elon tweets something, like go buy Doge as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get pumped.
Oh yeah. I remember sitting like in class when Doge was like, it was like when it was like taking its like first run to like 4 cents or something.
Yeah.
And I'd bought some, everyone in class was kind of talking about it. I was like, yeah, and like $100 or something, right? I'm like, it's Robinhood, dude.
I'll try it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like sitting on a bunch of cash in my Robinhood. I'm like, whatever. And it like jumped to like 8 and then it was like at 6 and I was like, yeah, this is stupid, And then I'm like, don't check my Robinhood all the time. And all of a sudden I checked, there's like 35 cents and I was like, I'm selling.
Did you sell?
Yeah. See, whatever. Yeah. What I made like $30 or whatever, like
you're jacked.
I was just like happy I didn't lose my $100.
Yeah. Dude, so that was my first like love-hate relationship with investing like that. Like I've had a couple stocks from when I was a kid that my grandma helped me get type of thing. Right.
Yeah.
But then getting into Robinhood, like I was like, wait, it's this easy? Like I would watch my grandma watch stock and she'd have her notebook and watch the little tickers at the bottom. And
yeah. There's so much to unpack there. So yeah, like if you think about, like I said earlier, like my grandpa, right? If he buys a stock at $12 and it goes to 8, he's like, buy more.
Yeah.
Well, it's because he had like a value approach, right? So what's his company going to produce in cash flows and dividends and, where's it going? And is it going to be around in 20 years? And, right. And like the Warren Buffett type method, Warren Buffett's a smart guy, but he's playing a completely different game than you or I.
Yeah.
Right? And I think most people are willing to admit that these days. But, my grandpa would like fax his trade order in, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like check the newspaper the next day to see how the market did, like it was just a completely different world. I mean, I can turn my graphics card up and get what an update every half second or something on the market data on my computer nowadays. And I mean, like I could move millions of dollars in an afternoon, no problem.
Right.
And move it all back too, I guess, suppose, oh man, totally lost my thought there. I'm like, I just imagine somebody having to fax in a trade order and like the paperwork involved in like,
I know, dude.
What a nightmare. Yeah.
I think I bought Campbell's soup when I was like 10.
Dude.
And
that's cool though.
It was so like, I didn't even know what I was doing. Like my grandma was like,
you're gonna literally own chicken noodle soup. That's like,
yeah. My grandma was like, you like making money? I was like, yeah, I like making money. She's like, you want to do it while you're sleeping? I'm like, sure.
What a great lesson to learn though as a kid.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say is Robinhood. Okay, so like conversely now, yeah, we have like Robinhood, and it's really easy for people to understand. And I have such a love-hate relationship with Robinhood because it is so cool that people can get in so easily to investing, and it's such a user-friendly app. But at the same time, if you look at it and you understand the psychology of investing, it is completely designed to make you want to trade. And the more you trade as a novice, like you're going to lose. Like it's like, you know what I mean? It's like playing the craps table.
I know exactly
or whatever.
what it's like.
It's like, and you get on it, it's like the red and green and the ups and downs and all this. And it's like, it's not even willing to tell you like, okay, if you move it to like the candlestick, thing. And I hope I'm not going too much here, but what are the terms on the candle? Are those 30-minute candlesticks? Are they 5-minute candlesticks? Are they 1 day, 1 week, 3 weeks? Is it like that's such relevant information that you would need to understand if you're going to make a trade decision.
Yeah.
And like, it's not even there. So it's completely there to just draw that emotion and have people make emotional decisions, which is like the worst thing you can do when you're investing.
Well, that's how I've explained it too. I'm like, it's like the Vegas of investing.
100%. And people think like, oh, free commissions, and they don't understand that there's like this spread, right? So payment for order flow and the way that works. But basically, I mean, like
Explain that.
People that have a lot of money, they still go use their broker. They pay commissions to their broker. I mean, and I'm talking people that are moving, tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Because their broker is going to go out and find them a good price, and it's cheaper to pay that guy his commission than to go buy it on Robinhood and pay for the spread, right? Where, the bid ask spread, you're thinking you're gonna buy it at $32 and 10 cents or whatever, but really the next guy's only selling it for $32 and I don't know, 16 cents or whatever. So there's like a 4-cent spread, but you keep repeating that.
Yeah.
Thousands of transactions a day, probably millions of transactions a day, right? And so you end up just getting wrecked by it. The more you trade, like the more they make.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's totally, it's sure it's commission free, but like, is it really? There's not a sales guy. Yeah, exactly. Like it's not Robinhood's not a charity.
Right.
Like they're making money off you somehow. So yeah, I caution against trading too much on Robinhood.
I wish you'd have told me that a year ago.
but I'm glad people do it because they can experience it. And I mean, I've brought on people that just have said, yeah, I've kind of made and lost a fortune in Robinhood. And I need your help. Like, can you help me out now? I thought I was a genius until the beginning of this year, and I'm like,
like, well, you were just investing when it was going up.
Yeah. Let me guess, you bought literally about anything, like, yeah.
You're like, yeah, Disney was doing pretty good.
yeah.
Along with Ford and everything else.
Yeah. Oh man. My wife for a while was like, why do you keep investing all our money? And I'm like, so finally I'm like, I opened up actually a Fidelity brokerage account like back in 2020, maybe the beginning of 2021. I'm like, I bought you shares of Disney. I'm like, dude, because owning anything, right, is like better than nothing at that point. Like the market's going up.
Yeah. So
my wife's a huge Disney fan, loves Disney. Like Disney is like sacred to my wife. So I'm like, honey, you own Disney. Like, I
don't think you understand.
I'm like, you're an owner. I'm like, like we're gonna get enough shares. You'll get there. Like they're gonna start calling and asking your opinion.
Walt's gonna invite you over.
Yeah, And she's like, okay, well, and she knows she knew I was being a singer. She's not stupid, but she's like, that's kind of cool though. So, she let me do it,
sure.
and luckily we, as soon as she kind of stopped asking, I was like, sell.
She knows you sold her, right? She ain't going to listen to this and just learn that?
Yeah, no, I've told her. But no, yeah, that was a while ago. But man, I'm so glad I sold it before they started doing all the political stuff.
Yeah.
All that ESG investing, that environmental, social, and governance. So it's man, for lack of a better term, it's like a woke score of a company, right? Like how woke is this company? Are they doing, are they environmentally friendly? Are they, supporting all the social movements? Are they, right? And so that's why a lot of these companies get like politically involved. They want to have like this high ESG score, make their employees happier, whatever.
Yeah, the 3% of them, yeah.
And from an investment standpoint, it's like the worst thing. It like does not look really good on investments.
I can imagine.
It can now when the government comes out and puts in a bunch of stimulus like directly into those. I'm sure it could be, but it's kind of artificial.
Sure, it's a pump.
Yeah, but I just wish companies would just stay out of the political. Like as a shareholder of Disney,
right?
You know what I mean? When I was a shareholder of Disney, I was just like. So through the lens of a shareholder at Disney, maybe is the wording I should use. Like, I'd be like, dude, stop.
Yeah, just make money.
Dude, yeah, hey, get Mickey dancing, open those gates and pack them roller coasters.
You guys are doing a good job. Don't switch it up now.
Yeah. Everything else, just shut up.
Yeah.
And they'd be so much more profitable if they would just do it. I don't know why these companies do it.
I'd never even heard that there was like a metric on the investing side to know that.
And in fact, there's actually like an S&P, so Standards & Poor's, like, the S&P 500, so Standards & Poor's, they have a ESG index. They actually kicked Tesla out of it because they thought Elon Musk wasn't woke enough for him.
Really?
Yeah.
That's news to me, man.
Yeah, he was kind of like, I make electric vehicles. Like,
isn't this the cool thing? Yeah.
I'm like, he's like, hey, like, hello, I'm trying to help the environment here. You know, isn't that like the E and ESG?
Yeah.
They're like, nah, you're not woke enough for us.
You're not Ford. You're not these other ones that.
Yeah, you're not donating enough money to the right causes.
Exactly.
You know? You're not, whatever the movement of the month is, you know.
And he's like tweeting too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Teaming up with Trump a little too much.
Yeah. Like that. Unfortunately, like that's, yeah. So I don't want to dive down the political route other than saying, I think from like a business and investment standpoint, like the best thing to do is just stay out of like the cultural issues and just make, you know, prudent business decisions.
Sure. Huh. That's interesting. I didn't even know that was a thing. Makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. That's something you would want to measure. So
is it? I don't care to measure it. I don't
well,
care
I'm just
about
saying
its
if it's
ESG
fluctuating it though, is what I mean.
Oh yeah, I'm like I want to measure
like
know,
something.
I want to measure the cash, dude. I want to measure like how profitable is the business. I really don't. You know, it's my investment, dude. I'm not. You know.
Well, that's what I mean. Like to be able to
worried
have
about my
that
clients'
happen.
money growing. I'm not worried about who's putting up more windmills. You know. Like, whoever makes, I don't care if you make a diesel truck or an EV, dude. I want profits.
Did you see that new Dodge just came? Is it the Dodge Charger? Did you see that?
No, but I saw
think it
something about them
announced
like
a day or two ago.
I saw something like in the last couple of days about them. They're going to stop making the Challenger and the Charger.
So I wonder if they're doing the EV of it then.
I bet they are.
This was.
I bet they are, but you know, how boring would that be?
Dude, I'll be honest. Like I'm not on the whole electric train, but dude, this car looks dope.
They look
like,
awesome.
It looks
like,
awesome.
I bet it looks awesome, man. Like the Ford Lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I could, if I could feel okay about just buying like any car I wanted, I would probably drive like that Ford Lightning.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool.
Well, dude, the whole thing
But-
makes sense.
But it's like, it's that, no, man, there's this weird gun channel. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Nut and Fancy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He's like the oddest guy ever. I met him a couple times when I was working up at Gunny's in Orem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's all right. Anyways, but he's got this whole thing where he says like second kind of cool. And so he says like, you know, first kind of cool is like, it's like really useful, you know, like there's a real purpose. Like it's got a lot of utility. Like the second kind of cool is like so like first kind of cool is like a, you know, like a Daniel Defense AR or something, right? Like it's got like a real good purpose. Like it's cool, but it's like got a real good purpose. Like it's really well built. And
Yeah.
like, the second kind of cool is like the guy that's got a cool 1911. Like, yeah, it's a cool 1911, but like
Maybe
from a
not-
practicality standpoint,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Just say you like it. And that if it's cool to you because of that, then that's like the second kind of cool. And I think like EVs are like the second kind of cool from that aspect, you know?
So if you think about it though, dude, 'cause when I was in high school, I did like a little report on this in like auto mechanics.
Sure.
Because it was when like I think it was the Chevy Volt was like one of the first ones to come out. There was Prius, I think, too, before it, but the Chevy Volt was like the one they were trying to make it like $30K, like it was somewhat affordable, and they ended up pushing it for like years because they couldn't figure out the battery side of it.
Yeah.
But I did like a little report on it, and I started thinking, and it's everything Tesla brags about now. Like I'm like, okay, so it's like a light switch that you can just turn it on, versus like having to build RPMs like a gasoline motor, or diesel motor. So I'm like, well, yeah, so it's going to be more efficient. It's going to be faster. It's going to handle better. And then they're really starting to get like integrating. I did a lot of cars when I was younger. So
Yeah.
So like ABS and traction control, and when all that stuff started talking together. And so I started thinking like, well, yeah, if they could get all this into the suspension, you could really like magnetize the suspension to ride better. And I started doing I did this like little report that I had to do on auto mechanic class, and I thought like, well, this is the future, like 100%. Like, why wouldn't you do this? And I mean, that's coming from the guy that drives like a Dodge diesel that blows black smoke all over the place, and, you know, but I think about it and I'm like, well, yeah, this other than like mining the batteries and all that nonsense that everyone talks about, right?
All that stuff that's completely essential for it to,
Yeah, exactly.
All the stuff that has to happen and make it possible. Yeah.
Exactly. But I'm like, as far as just the function of it, it makes complete sense.
Oh yeah. So like from owning the vehicle, if you take out like the means of production,
Right.
Like lithium,
Exactly.
lithium and
Like, we
cobalt
could
are no factor
Yeah.
in any of this. Like it just, you know, dude, yeah, they're cool. And I would think that's like totally the way, right? Like less maintenance.
Yeah.
You know, less maintenance at least like on a, you know, regular basis. man, that instant acceleration, like if you've ridden in an EV,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's freaking put you back in your seat.
Like
right?
I had like,
and it's like some dad car, like the Tesla Model Y, and it's like, it's like, guys give me a whiplash shaking off the line, it's like
Right.
nuts. And they're good ride and everything. But then you go, you factor in the means of production, and you're like, this doesn't make sense.
yeah. Well, that's what
Like, how do
kills
you
me about.
and then, so the thing that I'm always talking to people about is like depreciation on vehicles, right? So vehicles are a depreciating asset. So I like me personally, I don't want to have a lot of money in vehicles, right? Like they're going to go down in value.
Yeah.
And part of that depreciation is like the utility, right? So, imagine if you like bought your truck, right? You go onto the lot and buy this Dodge Cummins, brand new or whatever, $100,000.
Mine ain't brand new, but yeah.
No, yeah, but whatever. Like just
I
put
understand.
yourself in like the consumer shoes, and they're like, all right, okay, this thing's got a 60,000 mile warranty on it, and at 61,000 miles, you just throw it away because you'd have to replace the whatever engine and transmission, and it's going to cost more than the truck. And I'm not saying that's like is going to happen with EVs, but like I don't know, what is it going to cost to replace those batteries in 10 years?
Yeah.
I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, does the car become a throwaway at that point? Is there any resale value? I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying, I don't know that
You're
call
not
me a
all in
skeptic,
on it.
right? Yeah, I'm not all in on it. I'm like, it's like I'm crypto curious. I'm EV curious.
EV curious.
Yeah, I'm like they're cool. They're definitely cool, and somebody that says, hey, I drive a Tesla because I can, and it's cool, and I just love punching it everywhere, and I don't have to pay the gas bill,
I don't have to drive.
But
I just hold the steering wheel.
yeah, like, hey, like good for you. I'm happy for you, but don't come and tell me that it's because you care about the environment or something like that.
100%.
If you live on the south side of the Virgin River, man, you go home and plug your Tesla into the wall, you're like burning coal down at Dixie Power to charge your Tesla. Like
people don't get it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
it's like, where does power come from?
Yeah, hey, if you just say you like it, it's cool. You can just like it.
Right.
You're allowed.
It's not. It's not
I'm happy
because
it
you're
makes you happy.
environmentally friendly.
But yeah, it's.
Well, so do you see the new semis they're coming out with, or
They look
their
cool.
speech on the semis? So they were saying he's got, dude, I might butcher this, but I think he said there's 4 or 6 motors because they put a motor in each wheel.
Yeah.
And so he's like, this thing will run for, I can't remember how many years he said or how many miles he said, but he said, because what'll happen is, like, if this motor wears out or blows up or whatever, you're still running off of 5 motors.
Yeah.
And then if another one blows up, you're still running off of 4 motors. And I thought, like, man, like if you did that on a car, but I guess it's back to the battery, huh? It's the battery that causes the weak spot on all this.
Yeah, that's for me. That's the big unknown,
Yeah.
And I haven't done some deep dive. That's my 30,000 foot take on why I haven't maybe done a deeper dive, and no one's been able to come to me with like a convincing enough argument to like why. Like Bitcoin at first, right? I used to be like a Bitcoin skeptic. I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever.
So was I.
Like who the hell would pay for this? But I remain open-minded, right? I'm always open to hearing like whatever somebody has to say. Like teach me something, And if you can convince me, I'm all for it, right? I'm like the best or worst person to have on your team. Okay. And so if you're explaining things and you're really like, here to add some value, I'm like all in, you know what I mean? Like, but if you're just like, oh, it's just because that's the way it is, or it's done. I'm like, this is stupid. Right.
So you're saying if they could come up with a battery that they could guarantee for, I don't know if you'd measure it off of years or miles.
I'm way in over my head on like expertise. But if somebody came to me and said like, oh, there's a certain way that we could mine lithium and cobalt and we've improved this efficiency, and
what if
and kids are going to have to stop doing it with their, kids aren't going to be doing it with their hands in Africa anymore. And
you
know what I mean? And like all this stuff, like we have solutions to these problems. I'd be like, oh, tell me more. You know what I mean? Like, okay, all right, you got my attention.
So all it takes is a new technology that goes away from lithium, and you're in.
Not necessarily. What's the new technology? I don't know. Yeah, if you start,
too many unknowns here for you,
man. I don't know. Like, if you figure out how to run it off of water, you know what I mean? I'm like, there's plenty of that. But
I think they know how to. I just think they shut it down.
That's a whole nother.
Dude, I have a whole theory on that. I've always
Are we
said,
doing the conspiracy theory here?
Well, I don't think it's a conspiracy. Well, I think I think it is a conspiracy. I guess is what I should
it's
say.
exactly what you think it is.
I don't think it's a theory. I think it's happening.
Tell me the theory.
I think it's basically that. So I had talked about this back in high school. I was like, dude, I think the reason they're delaying and pushing this and saying they're not coming up with this technology, or they can't come up with the technology, is because think of how many countries that would bankrupt if they went away with fossil fuel. Like not only like businesses and jobs and everything that goes away, gas stations, like think of everything that goes away.
Yeah, but the free market replaces all of that.
With what?
I mean, gas stations with charging stations.
Yeah. I mean, you just have a charging station on every corner instead of a gas station. I guess you have gas stations on every corner.
Yeah. The free market corrects, man. The free market is incredible, right? And you want to know what stops any of that innovation from happening. If there's anything there to your any validity to your conspiracy, it's government involvement.
Yeah.
And nothing stifles innovation and creativity.
Well, that's what I go back to.
Is government involvement in any manner, right? Like, what makes healthcare so expensive in this country? It's government involvement, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, anything. What makes your gas expensive? It's like the government involvement. It's
when you think about all the technology we do have and stuff that like the military. Well, you were in the military. The stuff the military uses, and I'm like, you're telling me we can't figure this out? I can fly a drone across the world and like drop a bomb on someone, but I can't figure this out.
The military is the most technologically advanced and the most untechnologically advanced
at the same time.
I remember like when I first got to like what they call like the big army. Like when I got to my first duty station, I was like, holy shit. I'm like, this is like, you'll have like some of the coolest stuff. And then you're like, wait, we're still, I remember like, so you'd be like in the arms room, right? And you have like we have like these thermal night vision, it's like night vision, but they're thermals, right? These binoculars. It's like super cool. And you go down to like the motor pool and you're like doing your, like call it BI, like your basic issue for like all your vehicles equipment, right? And you're like Pioneer tools is what they call it on like the paperwork and stuff. And it's like you'll have like a screwdriver that's like half broken and all rusty, and it looks like it's from like the 80s or something.
Probably is.
And and it's just like, wait a second, what? Like,
yeah, we can't afford a Craftsman screwdriver up in here.
Yeah. That's what I was like. And there's like not even a box or like something. You know what I mean? It's like some like tool bag that's like half cracked because it's like made out of like this weird vinyl that just like breaks apart, and stuff. And you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, like, can we trade in one of those night visions to get a proper tool set?
Well, the great irony is, I suppose, is half like those night visions, half those thermals like didn't even work.
Well, it goes to the lowest bidder, right?
Ever since I like joined the army, man, I was like, anytime somebody's like, oh man, this is like military grade, I'm like, I don't want it.
Yeah. Dude, that's what I always laughed with the like the Diesel brother guys that are in Woods Cross.
Okay, yeah.
They're always like, this is a military grade axle and wheels, and I'm like,
it's gonna break and require a bunch of morons to fix it with parts that are back ordered and
you can't find. Yeah. And that's what they were doing is they were buying and building these trucks and whatnot and giving them away. Well, it's like you buy their product, you'd get entries to have it given to you, right? And it would always make me laugh because I'm like, these clowns don't know what they're getting. It's like some dude from like Louisiana comes up and picks up this monster truck. I'm like, what the hell is he doing with that thing? And what happens when your military grade axles break down? You can't go to freaking AutoZone and pick that up.
I think anyone that served would agree that like the greatest irony in the world is like military grade.
I've been writing down this like marketing scheme, and it's going to be stuff like that. That's like, and I'm not gonna be able to remember any of them, but I have it in notes at my store. It's like military grade and like, what are some of the other things that people say that make it sound cool and it's not? I can't think of any right now. I just kind of blew up this whole idea, but I have this thing where it's like, we have these safes that are this and that are this, and we just keep on throwing these like catchphrase words out along the whole video to make it sound like it's so cool, but we're like making fun that people actually say these things. And that's one of them.
Industrial grade.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Like
it's from Wish.
Exactly. We did a little video for Father's Day that was kind of like that, and it was like come check out this environmentally friendly built safe that is 100% organic. And we kind of did a little video like that, kind of playing on it, kind of making fun of it.
You should do one with like our organic safe, 100%. Definitely not built with slave labor, and it's got like a big Nike symbol on the side or something.
There you go. We do have Chinese safes.
Hey, you could pull like a Lion's Not Cheap, man, and just slap a Made in America sticker right over the top of it.
There you go. There you go.
You hear about that at all?
Yeah.
Oh man, I was like, those.
He made a lot of money though until that was found out. Still making a lot of money.
Still is, but I sleep good at night. So.
Yeah.
I always get leery of like those, like I call them like the Brovet companies, like they kind of seem like they're like really pushing on this, like the culture stuff too hard, and they're like manipulating into like these emotional buys. It's like just playing on the emotions a little bit.
Yeah.
Makes me a little weird, like leery of them. So when I saw that like Lion's Not Cheap thing, I was like, yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
I'm like,
something's up.
This has a customer base that is not going to appreciate this.
Yeah, you're playing with the wrong people on this one too.
Yeah. It's like, ooh. But yeah, anyways, I don't know. I have a Chinese made safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought it from Costco. I hate it.
Yeah, you should come buy a real one.
Yeah. Maybe if you throw this other one out for me. It's like, yeah. It's worthless.
I mean, so I had this conversation with a customer today where they were like, well, I don't want an imported one. And they're like, she said, I don't even know why you carry the Chinese imported stuff. I said, well, you got to understand, like there's different people and different price ranges and different purposes that the safe is supposed to serve.
Yeah.
Like she was saying that she had I don't know if I'm saying too much. I guess no one knows who she is, so it doesn't matter. But she was like, I have 400 pounds of stuff to store in this little safe. And so I'm like, okay, so it's like gold or silver, right? Like what else weighs that much that you
hopefully not like something weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, you can't have that much. And so, yeah, these Chinese safes probably aren't what you're trying to do, because the value that you're storing is 10 times what one of these costs.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. In insurance, like there's an insurance thing people say, like there's nothing more expensive than cheap insurance.
Yeah.
Which is, okay. Anyways.
Exactly. But I'm like, if you're trying to,
there's probably nothing cheap. There's like probably nothing more expensive than a cheap safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but no one knows that. I mean, that's what we really try to do at the store, is like, it's an education thing. Like, hey, what is your purpose? What are you nervous of? Yeah. Are you just trying to lock it up from your son? Well, dude, the Chinese safe will do that. That's the purpose of that.
Yeah.
Do you not want to lose it in a fire? Maybe not go with the Chinese safe. Let me tell you what the three levels that they use. It's, types of drywall, basically. Mm-hmm. Let me educate you on what they are. Oh, you're worried about someone breaking in. Well, this one actually has a stronger door than that Chinese one does. And this is why. Yeah. And so we kind of go through that with people. And I was the same way. I bought one from Cow Ranch. It was like $700. It was the biggest one you could buy for $700. And I was jacked for like 6 years. Yeah. Like I thought it was the coolest thing, Yeah. Everyone would come in, holy crap, look at that thing. And I'm like, I know, I only paid $700 for it. Yeah. And like now I laugh at myself because I know how that's built.
Yeah. I just needed like a cheap safe at this one location. Yeah. That was, not really anything too important. So the Costco had it on sale and I was like, yes, this should work. But I have comparing it to like a Champion, which I have, I'm like, this safe sucks.
Yeah. Right.
I'm like, I'll never buy another one of these.
Well, now it's, that's what's fun with the store too, is we have everything from like the lowest Chinese grade you can buy all the way up to like the hand built, Rolls Royce. Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, so, I mean, come and feel it. I mean, you'll know why the price change keeps going up.
Oh, yeah.
It's because you can put hands on it and look at it. So instead of going to, and no knock, this is just how they run their businesses, but I won't even name them. So you go to like one store that has one brand and you have nothing to compare it to.
The captives. Yeah. My business, I call it like the captives,
The captives.
Yeah, like the people that work for like an insurance, so they say like they're like a financial planner, but they work for, like a singular insurance company. Yeah. Whatever.
Exactly.
Insert whatever, mutual company or whatever.
Yeah. And so
they have the home team product they need to sell, and so it's like, well, if that happened to be the right product, the client came off okay, but how many times is it not the right fit? Yeah. You got to have options.
You don't know any better.
Yeah. You got, and a lot of, and I'm not knocking anyone specifically, right? Like a lot of times people just don't know what's out there.
Exactly.
But, you gotta have options. You gotta know what all the options are.
Well, that's cool, dude. But I'm finding it comes at a price, because having to keep all that inventory in stock all the
I
time,
bet.
kicking my trash.
The overhead is probably ridiculous.
Well, and we were buying everything we could get our hands on the last 2 years. Like if
Really?
it was available, we'd buy it because you couldn't get it.
Well, I remember going into your store and that's what I was going to say. It was like, and I was like, hey, what, if I wanted to buy one of these, and he's like, yeah,
Good luck.
Next year or something, I remember I wanted to buy a new bass boat, and I was like
Same thing.
Yeah, Rogers Performance. I was down there and I was like, hey, what if I got, ordered a new tracker or whatever? And they're like, yeah, we could order it. I'm like, how does that work? They're like, yeah, you just pay your deposit, and it'll be here in like 2020.
Next year,
It's like back in 2021. They're like, it'll be here in like 2023 or 2024. I'm like, yeah, no thanks.
Right. Well, and that's how it was forever.
It's nuts.
I mean, we like Browning's one of the popular brands that we carry.
Yeah.
And we didn't see anything for, I want to say 18, 19 months that we ordered stuff and had never seen it.
Really?
And we had people that were like calling, and at the time it was like they kind of had everything in stock. It's like you ordered something. I could have drove up that weekend to Provo and picked it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it went to like telling people like, oh yeah, they're probably 2-3 weeks out. And then all of a sudden they're calling me in like 2 months. And I'm like, yeah, I still don't know anything.
Yeah.
And you're calling Browning and they're like, yeah, we don't know anything. And then it turns out they have all those ships sitting out on the bay, right? That they wouldn't unload, and all of our safes are sitting on them.
Yeah.
And so you couldn't get anything forever. And then in Champion did a lot better because they're a lot more in state. Fort Knox is 100% in state. Holland did okay.
Isn't Champion from like
They're Provo.
Utah County? Yeah.
Yeah, they're so this is how it actually happened. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on here. So how all those little safe brands up there started?
Yeah.
They were all at Pro Steel. And
Okay.
and so Pro Steel has the licensing to build Brownings.
Okay.
So Browning comes out of Pro Steel in Provo. And so there was a family that there were 3 brothers, and they broke out of that Pro Steel and they all started their own. And then there was one other guy that left and started his own.
These are like the Burger Supreme and Crown Burger of safes.
Exactly, dude.
Okay.
And so Liberty, National Security, and Champion were all brothers.
Okay.
And they all started their own. And then the James family started Fort Knox. And they all started together at Pro Steel.
Yeah.
And then a little bit down the road, Fort Knox is by far the best. I've said that on here before.
Fort Knox, as you said?
Fort Knox is the best. Okay. National Security was really good. In my opinion, they were building them too good for what they were charging. And I think that I don't know this. They got to a point that Liberty bought them out. Okay. I think it's because they were building them too good and selling them for too cheap.
Yeah, and that's the easiest way to maintain your monopolies. A smaller guy.
Well, and I've moved a few of them. And
they're small.
I'm like, you paid what for this? Like, this thing's like should be worth way more than that just in the steel.
Yeah.
And so National was bought out by Liberty, and now they have like the National line, and that was actually its own company at one time, and then Liberty bought them out. And then it's the Crosby brothers, I think was their last name. And so we sell all of them but Liberty. The only reason I'd love to sell Liberty, they're the number 1 safe brand in the nation. There's more. They are the F-150 of safes.
Okay.
They're cranked. They mass produce them. They're cranked out. They're doing hundreds of them a day.
Yeah.
But Rowdy's Range, which is local to St. George, they're the local dealer for Liberty.
Oh.
So unless you're like a big box store and have a program with them, you can't even get them because they protect Rowdy's territory.
You know what? I kind of have a respect for that.
Sure.
Company,
yeah, so do I. Yeah, so. And to be honest, Champion was the same way. The reason we're able to retail Champion is because I'm buddies with Jake Erickson and Tyne Segmiller that own Dixie Gun and Fish.
Yeah.
And so we were able to work out a deal with them where we can buy through their. I don't even know if I really should be saying all this.
Scrap that. Yes,
I'm pretty sure. I'm not nerd. Like, people ask me, I just tell them. But like we have a deal worked out that we get them through them. Maybe that's the best way.
Isn't that so wild though that we live in a world where we have to be like concerned about like, why can't we just tell people?
Yeah.
Be transparent with people.
Right. Well, I tend to be, and it gets me in trouble.
I'm probably the same way. Like I have like somebody come to my office and like how does all this work? And I'm like, well, let me tell you how I get paid first, because that's going to help you understand a lot of
Sure.
how some of these things work in the financial industry, you know, and they're like, oh, it all makes sense why that other guy was saying
Exactly.
XYZ thing or whatever. But it's just so weird that it's like, why does it even matter where you get something or what you get it for or whatever? If you're just helping people and if you're adding the value,
Right.
what does it matter?
What does it matter? Dude, I feel the same way with like what people make. Like
Yeah.
when people are like, what do you make? I'll tell them. And like,
Yeah.
so my wife's at IHC, right? And it's all like at any place I've worked with, it's like a big corporation.
Yeah.
Everything's all hush hush on how much you make. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
I'm like walking around like, dude, why? Are you making that much more than I am that we can't even talk about it?
Yeah.
Like, or why are you making? Oh, I can see why you're making more. You should be making that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always been extremely open with all of that. And I think part of it is, tell me how you feel about this. So I think part of it is like, I never knew how much anyone made.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really a thought until I was in my later teen years, right?
Yeah.
That people like made that much more money than my parents did. But I think that if that stuff's talked about, like with William, I'm going to be completely open with all that because I want him to understand, like, not that we're like super high earners or anything, don't get me wrong, but like I want him to understand the meaning behind it, what you can do and what the possibilities of it are.
Well, when you start realizing that money's like it's just a resource.
Yeah.
You know, and you can use it for, you know, for whatever you want. So you can use it to, you know, buy your fancy boat, or you can use it to help other people, or you can use it, right? So,
or buy your boat and use it in 2024.
Yeah. But I mean, if you can show your son that, you know, like money's not some evil thing, right? It's what you do with the money that can be evil.
Exactly.
So if you you get the money to, right, self-indulge, you know, that's where you run into some issues, right? But if you get money coming in and you're looking for ways to, you know, again, just provide for your family in a reasonable way, and then, you know, look for ways to help other people with it. What, you know, why is money a bad thing to talk about?
Exactly.
You know, it's like the scarcity mentality is when somebody doesn't want to talk about money.
It's what it is, dude.
You know, but it's just, it comes, it goes. I mean, it's really just like made up almost, you know, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's just,
I think it is.
It's a, you know, money's a store of value or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's a store of, you know, energy and function and all these other things. But, you know, what does it matter if I have $1,000 if I'm, you know, trying to use 100 of it to help my family and 900 of it to help other families or other people, or, you know, like you try to help your friend start a business, or, you know what I mean? Like whatever. It's like
money comes, money goes. You said it.
Money comes, money goes, and people like don't want to talk about it. And really, I think what I've learned is that people don't like being vulnerable about it because they're somewhat like they're ashamed, and I think they're worried that they don't have the life that they put off or portray to other people. You know,
I think you're right.
I've talked to obviously a lot of people about their money, and people get pretty, what I call like financially naked, you know, in my office, right? Like I see it all, you know, I see the whole picture.
There's
right?
nothing to hide.
Yeah, they can't, you know, if you're going to hide something from me in my office, like there's no point in coming in, right? You got to be,
Exactly.
Right? It's like going to your doctor and not telling them all your symptoms. Like, how's he supposed to help you? So, you know, people show me, that's my job. But the people that are most worried about it are oftentimes the people that make the most money. And then sometimes the people that make the most money carry the most debt. And when you stack up the assets versus liabilities, they actually have the least. It's really interesting. Okay, so when people feel a lot of times like inadequate about themselves, and what it is, it's like the self-confidence, that self-worth, right? It's kind of just like in your regular psychological, like your own emotional self, right? So money's an emotional thing. And so when somebody doesn't have a plan, they feel like discombobulated. And so you might be this really high earner and make all this money, or you might have nice things, but you're like thinking to yourself, you're like, I don't really know what I have. I don't really know how much I make. When can I stop working? When will I have enough to comfortably buy that thing? Or, you know, am I actually going to have the money to send my kid to college or whatever, right? Like there's just not, it's that lack of organization and planning. And when people have that, and when they put in the work to get organized like that, which a lot of people don't, even when they come into my office, right? Like even when they come to see me, they'll have me manage assets and stuff. Very few people are willing to put in the work to like gather all the documents, do all the review, like, you know what I mean? Like really get it organized, and then be like, okay, all all right, we got the plan. Like, let's stress test it, like, okay, all right. What else could we do? How else could we improve this? Okay. And then like people don't want to put in that work. They get bogged down, they just, they get that like comfortable and they're like, I just feel comfortable, having a super aeronautique and my friends thinking I'm super rich.
Yeah.
It's like, and deep down they're like, man, I don't know. What am I really, because, and here's the thing, like, what is wealth? What is wealth?
I think it's
what is wealthy?
Yeah.
It's totally subjective. For me personally, it's doing what I want, when I want, with who I want, where, what I want, how I want. It's that freedom, right? I don't care about stuff the same way.
I think that's what it is for a lot of people, though. Like, it is subjective to what level it is.
But especially like in the entrepreneur space, right? Like, so the entrepreneur space in Utah is insane, right? Compared to the rest of the country.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that I was really looking for when I moved out here, because in Wisconsin, it's just like a lot of, you're like blue collar, just, there's not a lot going on. Okay. Like, there's not a lot going on. It's a great place, but there's not a lot going on compared to Provo, by comparison. Great people, still love Wisconsin, but it just wasn't that, like that tech, that entrepreneurial, that startup, kind of culture. Yeah. And people are always talking about like, you got to give it all, you got to grind, this, that, and everything, and it's all like, for what? So what? Okay. If like, I just had a client this week sell one of their businesses for like $2 million. It's like, and now what? Well, these particular clients they're awesome, going to spend time with their family. Like, they've had it figured out. Very frugal people, like, so there's a plan, right? They have a plan, but like, what are you going to do if you had $1 billion? Like, is that what you really want? Like, you really want to manage that lifestyle? I don't know. Maybe some people probably do. A lot of people probably do. Most people probably do.
A lot of people think they do until they know what it comes with.
But, for me, right? And that was like that thing that I had to recalibrate when I joined the Army was like, look, I was young. The first time I made 6 figures was when I was like 20 years old, like, and to go from that to being a private in the Army, right? Like, it's like a huge pay cut.
Right.
And so I had to learn like this different lifestyle, but man, when I was running those, retail stores, I was like, going to get divorced. Me and my wife were going nowhere. We had a really rocky marriage, man. I swear she like hated me, and I was like, cause I worked all the time. So I made good money, but like life just had this, I was like totally in the rat race, and going where, for what, kind of thing. Whereas, like, so like the lesson I learned in the Army was to recalibrate, value my nights and my weekends and value that time with my wife and, be away and then it helps me appreciate when I have the time around her and stuff. And so nowadays I'm like, yeah, dude, I drive an old car. So what? It's paid for.
Yeah.
Now I can take money and go, like, I don't take on, what I mean? People ask me like, well, don't you hate clients at XYZ? I'm like, no, I don't have those clients. You know what I mean? Cause I just don't take on clients that I don't want.
Yeah.
I like to help people, so I don't care what somebody brings to the table for that they're going to pay me. It's like, I'm mission driven and I like helping people. And so for me, like, right, that's wealth, to be able to go out and say like, okay, I know this, my bills are covered and my family's taken care of. We don't live, some crazy life. We're extremely blessed. I've never like gone home and wondered, like, are we eating dinner tonight or not?
Yeah.
At least since I've been like married. I mean, when I first moved out of the house, maybe a couple of times I had sleep for dinner, when I first moved to Utah, but, like I have a different purpose. Like, you know what I mean? And that's what makes me feel whole. And that's what makes me feel wealthy, right? Is having a purpose. Like, it's not about the money. And if it is about the money, like, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to feel like you're always going to feel like you have that imposter syndrome because you're always chasing the next thing. Like, the goalpost is always moving. If you haven't, there's a book I recommend it very highly to a lot of people. It's called The Psychology of Money by Morgan. And I'm going to butcher this last name, Housel.
I've heard of it. Yeah, I haven't read it.
Phenomenal book. It's written in chapters that are like stories, so you don't have to like read the whole thing like consecutively. It's kind of like you can pick up one chapter and read it.
Got you.
Get the message, kind of independent messages. But there's a chapter where he talks about like Bernie Madoff. Okay, like dude, he was extremely rich before he started the Ponzi scheme. Right, like he had a successful career as a market maker. Like it. And then he went and scammed people for billions of dollars, right? Like, why does somebody that has that much money already, like, why do they need to do that? You know, it's like, because they're always chasing the next thing. The goalpost keeps moving, right? So they say, like, when I have $100 million, it's like, dude, what do you need more than $100 million for? You know, and I'm like, I don't want anyone to like misinterpret this. I'm a capitalist. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy for Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Cuban or whatever, right? Like, you know, make as much money as you want, go for it. Like, we need people to want to innovate, right? But if you want to feel fulfilled, like us regular folks, I don't know. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense.
It does, dude. But I look at it and I'm lacking in that, and so like I'm just eating what you're saying.
I don't like. Here's what I know: when I die, no one's reading my net worth statement at the funeral. Like, no one is getting up and saying like Branden was worth, X dollar amounts. What a great guy. You know what I mean?
That's how we measure. Yeah.
Yeah. Like what? So what is your net worth really worth? You know, like you're
especially if like
it's
your
worth
family
what
and
you
kids
can
hate
do with it,
Yeah.
you know? And if you can do a bunch of good in the world, then go do it. But if you're doing it just to have the net worth, like, I don't know. Yeah, man, have fun. You're going to always feel kind of that, like, there's going to be that empty void.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there just always will. Like,
So your solution to that is get a plan.
Get a plan, man, and have a purpose. You know, I always talk about like if you read the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I love the Start With Why model, you know, or like the Stephen Covey principle. People are sometimes more familiar with that. Like, start with the end in mind. Like, what do you want to do? Like, you know, if you do that exercise, like, you know, write out your obituary, you know, and what is that going to say? What do you want that to say? You know, and the stuff that you want it to say, like, are you doing the things that are going to get that stuff on your obituary, you know? Or are you just, you know, like, is your obituary going to be like, Derick, like, had a really cool podcast and a cool truck, and you know what I mean? Like,
no, I get it.
And made cool holsters and had a really fancy boat, or I don't know. I got this thing against boats. But you know, like, no, you don't want that. You know what I mean? Like, you want like Derick had this cool podcast that he like helped people tell their stories, and you know, help brighten people's days, and was there when people needed him, and you know, if somebody called for his help, he was there, and you know, taught his kids valuable life skills, and you know, helped his neighbor fix things, or you know what I mean?
No,
like,
I'm with you.
Like, dude, use your money to make that happen. Don't use your money to like. Derick had a really cool Corvette, you know. You know what I mean? Like,
I just don't know when you get to that point of, because this is my problem. This is me personally. Like, I don't know. So say your mark is $50 million, and then you're like, cool, man, I'm free. Like, I have freedom now. I can do what I want when I want. Yeah. So is that the mark? Like, that's what I've never looked, like you're saying, have a plan. I've never done that because I've always just been, like you were saying, the Utah, you know,
chase
grind,
it, chase the dream,
go.
The grind, yeah.
And that's what I've always been.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I run the risk of sounding like I'm, you know, not a capitalist, or some kind of lazy. I'm some kind of lazy person, you know, because I'm like, you know, yeah. So what if I decide I want to sleep until 7:30 in the morning or whatever? Like, I've earned that right by the way that I live my life. That I don't financially have to show up at the office at a certain time and do, you know, answer behooving to a boss.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's positives and negatives that come along with that, but you know, I can make that decision. If I got all my work done and I got things taken care of at 2:00 and I want to go home and hang out with my kid, that's on me. And I put the effort out. I grind, right? So get this, I grind. Just a lot of it might be with my family, spending time with family. Yeah. You know, or whatever.
Yeah. And whatever people that would like, people that don't understand that and don't see that, it's because they haven't done it.
Yeah.
And so when you say that, I'm like, dude, I totally get it.
So I think the key thing is to figure out what kind of lifestyle you want to live, right? Yeah. And so I'm not knocking people that want nice things, or, you know, Corvettes or boats or whatever. I'd like to have those things too, but at the same time, like, I don't know if I'd want to. I don't know. Me personally, I might want to employ that money somewhere else. Just, I don't know. But, figure out what the lifestyle is, right? If you need, if you need $3,000 a month in passive income to tell everyone to start, taking a hike if they ask you to do something you don't want to do, right? Like, dude, then figure out how to make $3,000 a month, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like in passive income or whatever, right? And until you need to tap that, maybe it keeps compounding in your favor, so it just gets even better. But maybe that's $10,000. I don't know what, you know what I mean? Like, that only comes from you having a discussion with your wife and your family and saying like, okay, here's how we need to recalibrate, and then after that recalibration, this is what we're going to need, and that's our financial independence number. And when we're there and we're feeling good about that, then, that's what I call like the FU money, right? Like, and so for some people, it doesn't take a lot, right? If I listened to one episode of the podcast here, right? And you talked about like somebody that lives in like a manufactured home and just like works a job, and but he's like happy,
Sure.
Dude, that guy's financial
Dude,
independence
I
number
envy
probably
him sometimes. Yeah.
Dude, it's probably super low. You know what I mean? Like,
house is paid off. I talked to him the other day. House is paid off. Car's paid off. Paid cash for his brand new car.
How much stress does he have in his life?
Dude, this
dude
mean? Just like goes hiking, dude. He just goes on a hike and just loves life. Man,
Dude,
that's what I'm saying. I envy him sometimes.
What's wrong with that? Now if he feels fulfilled, right? Like,
right.
And a lot of times people don't see the picture. Like, he's probably spending a lot of time with his family, working on his family. Like, it's not that he's not working. He said he's not working to make money for someone else or whatever, right? Like those people sometimes. There's a guy, Ronald Redding, I think is his name, right? If you look up his Wikipedia, it's like, it reads something like this. It says like something like, Robert Redding was a investor, philanthropist, gas station clerk, and janitor. And it's like, wait, what? so this guy died like in 2013, I think, and there was only like, oh man, I'll get the numbers way wrong if I try to do this. But anyways, this guy died. He's like one of only like 1,200 people or something that died that year with a net worth like. Was it over $4 or $5 million? And his entire career was fixing cars at a gas station and sweeping floors at JCPenney's. Dude just like was consistent.
Yeah.
Saved his money, didn't live a big lifestyle. And, people overlook the fact that, this guy literally had philanthropist in his Wikipedia page. Like,
right.
The guy had money and he was like using it for good. And that's how people remembered him.
Yeah. Imagine what his obituary said, right?
Yeah. Like, so who cares if you're sweeping floors at JCPenney and live in a manufactured home or whatever, right? Like, if you're happy and you're feeling fulfilled because you're doing the right things in the world, some of the largest net worth statements you'll see come from like normal people. Like the two most common job professions to have the title of millionaire is actually, no one ever guesses this, by the way. You know what? Go ahead. Actually, try it.
Job title. It's a millionaire.
Yeah. So the two most common job titles in America that are millionaires.
I think you'd guess insurance salesman and real estate.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, engineers and teachers.
Teachers, really?
Yeah. It's because it's a personality. They're just consistent, right? Teachers usually like having a little bit of a plan. They utilize their 401ks. They have the pension. It's not huge. You know what I mean? Like, they don't live a life, but they're just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone in Utah is like, there's no way.
Especially Utah.
You're talking about Utah teachers. It's different, man. They get wrecked here. But definitely short-sighted in Utah. but yeah, no, it's interesting. And so like, for me though, if someone loves building stuff and like you like sitting on AutoCAD all day and you feel fulfilled by like designing some bridge, like, man, why tell somebody that they're less than because they're not out, starting some company or doing something great? Like, man, if they like go to work and they like enjoy it and that's what they enjoy and they're building towards that financial freedom. Dude, if you retire at 65 these days, what do you have? 20, 25, 30, 40 years of of just retirement and doing nothing? Like,
they're going to have to push that date back.
People talk about like, on your one episode when you talked about like the post office, right? Like, you can retire. What did they say? Like 32 years?
32 years.
32 years. Dude, what would you have been when, like 60?
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Dude.
like 65 or something. I was like, what?
but like, think about it. Like, think about being 65 and being like, all right, dude, you still have 30 years left.
Yeah. Well, I think my problem with that
You know
was
what I mean?
like,
Like,
you're going to be making $40K a year until you're
oh
60.
yeah, dude,
And I
don't get
was
me
like,
wrong. I'm
what?
not saying you made like the wrong choice, but I'm just saying like people forget that like, man, you don't want to freaking work till you're 90 years old.
Right. Well, I probably will. Yeah, because I didn't stay at the post office.
No, dude, you can retire much faster than that. But it's interesting. People that don't have any kind of a plan and they don't have any consistency to it, man, dude, it can get tough. Like, you know, I mean, I don't know. I'm not one to really like bank on like Social Security. I don't think.
No. Yeah, I don't think we have that coming our way.
I don't have high hopes for that. You know,
Yeah.
and stuff. So, you know, it's like you better figure it out. You know, and I don't want to detract from the entrepreneurial space. Like I have such a high respect for people that are entrepreneurs. I would consider myself an
I was
entrepreneur.
going to say you were one. Yeah.
You know, but it's not for everyone. You know, and I just think that there's a lot of times in this entrepreneurial space that like, hey, if I'm in the entrepreneurial space and you're not, so I'm better than you, or, you know, you're not as good, or like, you know, I obviously work harder because I'm an entrepreneur, or I care about life differently, or I'm more passionate or whatever. And I don't like the hype of it. You know, like there's all kinds of great people out there, you know, like just start seeing people for people, you know, and treat everyone fair, and, you know, like everyone deserves a fair shake, you know, like why?
Yeah. I think if everyone actually understood that and practiced it, we'd be a lot better off.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
And I get on these rants sometimes and I'm always like, man, someone's about to accuse me of being woke. You know? I'm just like,
Yeah. What's your score? What's your
my
your
ESG score would be like
investing
about
score?
0, you know, like I'm like, you know, I'm the guy that gets on those like jokes. That's like, you know, you can't like throw your car battery away because it's like against the law, but it's like not against the law to like throw it in the ocean.
It's messed up.
You know, you're like, I don't know. Yeah, I definitely would have a horrible ESG score, you know, particularly because I just wouldn't get involved in any political issues either, you know, with a business like that. But,
Sure.
But no, I mean, in case anyone's wondering, I'm pretty staunch conservative, very, very fiscally conservative. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that they just Inflation Reduction Act is like, you know how you want to know how a bill Congress passes is gonna. You want to know what it's gonna actually do. Whatever the name says it's gonna, like the opposite of whatever the name says it's gonna do.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. You know,
That's a whole nother podcast.
Oh my gosh, man. And I could go for like hours on that. Yeah. Over doubling the size of the IRS terrifies me. But
Seriously.
I think about all those people, like a lot of times people in the entrepreneurial space, again, like they think I'm nuts. They think I'm like, sometimes they think I'm like some big establishment because I'm like, yeah, I think it's a good idea to like just pay your taxes. You know, like, and they think I mean like, yeah, you should just give them all your money. You know, I'm like, no, I think you should just, you know, there's like, hey, look, there's a left and a right ditch, you know, and just stay on the road. You know, like you get off the road and you could come into some problems, you know. Like,
I like that, yeah.
And you know, like, so you can be aggressive, you can get close to the edge, you know, but, you know, like, get a good CPA. You know what I mean? Like, get a good CPA and trust their advice. You know, like
Let
a good
them be the
CPA.
rumble strips, yeah.
A CPA wants to save you the most money they possibly can on taxes, right? Like, and a good CPA is going to do that, but they're also not going to put themselves in a position where they need to answer
Exactly.
on an audit, you know? So like, that's our whole job. Get a good CPA. Like anyone listening, like if you learn one thing tonight, is I'm telling you, especially with 87,000 new agents potentially, is like get a good CPA. But all these wild tax strategies, you know, people talk about like on TikTok and stuff. I'm like, oh, holy crap.
It's scary.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
I hear stuff all the time.
Yeah,
and
get
I'm
a
like,
plan, get a good
holy
CPA.
crap. You know, I'm like, I don't know if people, you know, like people must just really have not gotten audited much because it is a gigantic pain in the ass.
Have you been audited?
I have not been audited,
Uh-oh.
but I've seen it happen, and it is like, I mean, it can take like a couple of years, and it's just time consuming, and you got to pay a CPA, and you might have to pay an attorney, and I mean,
Doesn't sound fun.
man, you save 20 grand on taxes, and you spend 50 grand just defending yourself, and at the end they still tell you still at the 20.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're 2 years down the road.
Yeah, and you're 2 years down the road, and then by the way, they want interest on it too now.
Yeah.
And stuff. So, yeah, it's, you know, I always try to, you know, just stay between the ditches, you know, and you know it sucks to pay taxes. I get it, you know, no one likes to pay taxes.
Right.
It's like paying your insurance premium on your car every month. Like
No one enjoys that.
No one enjoys that. Yeah. Like, but like, trust me, you won't enjoy an audit. Like just, I don't know. That's worth saving $1. It's kind of that like dollar. What do they say? Like, penny smart and a dollar dumb, or what are they?
I don't know that one.
What's that saying? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a penny wise and a dollar dumb.
Sounds smart.
Yeah, sounds smart. Yeah,
Sounds like you know what you're talking about.
That's the important thing. This is Utah after all.
Yeah. Cool, man. But I think we're there. I think we wrap it up.
Yeah.
Cool. Then we come back on and talk about the IRS agents a little later.
Yeah. The next Derick Lake podcast exclusive. Derick's exclusive take on the IRS.
Yeah, let's give a shout out if people want to follow you, because you do a lot of videos. So you do like some I don't know if you call it educational, if you want to call it that. But I
try to just be thought provoking for people.
Yeah, sure. That's a good way to put it. So how can people follow you? How can people get that information? And then shout out your business one more time and how to get a hold of you guys.
Yeah. Instagram and Facebook, both DuCharme Financial. And you can find our website at DuCharmeFinancialGroup.com. And if you're local to St. George or Southern Utah, there's a St. George tab. You can go on there and schedule a meeting with me that way.
And are you guys like nationwide? Like, can you do things online over Zoom?
Yeah, we manage enough money. We're registered with the SEC, so
cool.
I can manage money in all 50 states.
Cool. I mean, we're worldwide. I don't know if you knew that. We're a worldwide podcast.
Yeah, I'm not worldwide, but across the nation. Yeah, across the nation.
Cool, man. Thanks for coming on. I like doing a lot of these in person. It's kind of fun to get to know people too.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
I've seen you on social media a little bit when you were like, dude, I'm down. When we needed a guest, I'm like, sign him up. So,
well, I'm glad he had me.
Yeah, we'll bring you back on too. I think you can add a lot of, I kind of like going through a lot of the background and get to know guests. And then the future thought is just to bring them back on and then just start digging into the education side of it.
Yeah.
So
I'd love to.
Okay. We'll have you back on again. We'll have Mallory space it out and then bring you back in.
Cool,
man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, guys. That's it. That's episode 60. I learned a lot. I think we ran a little long, but I think you'll enjoy it if you're still with us. You guys need to go follow him. You guys need to take his advice. If you want a phone call, if you guys want to shoot an email over to him, see what he can do for you. I think getting a plan is what I took, my biggest thing I took, because it's something that's been on my mind. So I'm glad I had this conversation too. So guys, share us, hit the like button, give us a review. Let's keep on growing the podcast. Appreciate you still being here, and we'll see you guys next week.